Welcome to the Learning Experience powered by CAST. I'm one of your hosts, Kelli Suding.
And I'm Pérez.
And I'm Bryan Dean.
We are three educators here ready to break down barriers until learning has no limits. Let's do this. Hey there, welcome to Season 4, Episode 1 of the new rebranded podcast, The Learning Experience, that we are so excited about, right? I'm Kelli Suding. I'm on the accessibility team, one of the accessibility specialists at CAST. Hey, Bryan, who are you?
Oh, I'm Bryan Dean, and I'm the innovation specialist here at CAST, and I'm here on work release.
I'm so glad you're able to get out for this first episode.
Me too. I'm really excited.
And hey, everybody, this is Pérez, and I'm a accessibility and disability director at CAST, and I'm part of the accessibility team as well.
Yeah, and we've been talking like we cannot believe it's already 2025. I mean, do both of you have anything super ambitious coming up in the new year? Like Louise, I know you're a brilliant bird photographer. Is there any bird that you're hoping to capture on lens in 2025?
Oh, yes. There's a little bird that's been evading me for the last few years, the eastern screech owl. It's a master of camouflage. It's really small. I'm sure I've passed it many times while walking in the woods, but it's evaded me so far. So that's a goal for me for this year.
I've got an old friend. His name's Scoob, and I can probably get you one if you want one. Or you just want a picture of it in the wild?
I want a picture of it in the wild.
Oh, okay. Never mind then.
There you go. I have no doubt you'll get it. What about you, Bryan? What kind of creative projects you have coming in the queue?
I don't know if I don't know if they will end up getting finished, but I have really dug into this idea of digital humanities and being able to tell the story of humans through interactions. So I've been working on some video game ideas that work with mental health, and like simulating, like being able to sit in the shoes of somebody in a panic attack or somebody in emotional dysregulation, being able to play those as video games.
Wow. You'll have to come back and make sure you talk more about that to us.
Yeah, well, we'll see. If it ends up not being very good, I won't.
That's fair.
Only if it's good, right?
Yeah, only if it's good. Yeah.
Only if it's good, right? I mean, you two like have way more things going on. I'm listening to you now. I'm thinking I really need a hobby. Like I have, what my hobby's been? I have been rediscovering Bob Ross painting on Hulu.
There you go.
You know who that is?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Of course. Happy trees and little mistakes, or no little mistakes.
That's right. Finding my Zen moment with Bob Ross. And I'm thinking, maybe my hobby will be painting. Who knows?
Right. Yeah.
Who knows?
You should take that on, Kelli, for sure.
One thing I do know, there's so much happening in education right now. So I thought maybe we talked about maybe just unpacking some of those developments this year, specifically to universal design for learning and how we think it's going to continue to evolve this year. What do you think?
Wow. How long is the podcast?
Well, Bryan, we try to keep it to a half hour so that, if you're going for a short walk, which we highly recommend, by the way.
Yeah.
If the weather allows it, wherever you are, for sure, get out there, get some sunlight, get some fresh air. I think that's really good to make sure that, as educators, we take care of ourselves. There's a saying, when you're on a plane, you should put the mask on first. And that way you don't fall unconscious before you can help others. So if something happens, right, God, we want to make sure nothing happens. But if something happens, they say put the mask on first. So as educators, we want to do that. We want to practice self-care whenever possible so that we can show up day after day for the learners who need us, right? So highly recommend that.
Yeah, I just get on the plane and automatically do it. No, I just put the mask on. It's a little unsettling, I've been told, but I just like to be prepared.
There's nothing wrong with that at all, right?
Well, not according to the FAA. They have a problem with it.
So Louise, what do you think about UDL in 2025? What's that looking like for you?
Well, to me, there are some things that are continuities in our world of UDL, and there are some new developments and new concepts, right? They're not new concepts. I think it's just a matter of emphasis, right? Is what you emphasize. So for sure, the foundation of UDL and accessibility, that's going to continue going forward. And there's a number of developments that are going to make that even more essential. So for instance, the Americans with Disabilities Act is our civil rights law in the United States for people with disabilities. And Title II of that law has to do with state and local governments. And there's a deadline coming up in 2026 for many school districts, many universities and community colleges that are publicly funded, where they have to meet accessibility requirements, specifically the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines.
Mhm.
So, meeting those requirements really provides a great foundation for implementing universal design for learning. What is it that we say, Kelly? You can have accessibility without UDL. You can't have UDL without accessibility, right? I mean, it's
Right
right
on.
there. It's right there in one of the layers, right? The access
Right.
layer.
Yeah.
Well, what does that begin to look like? So I'm just a, let's, say I'm a ninth grade English teacher. What's that going to mean for me? Like, how's that going to look for me? Am I going to see anything different, or is it going to
Yeah.
be, do I have to expect something?
No,
Or,
that's a great question. So if you are a ninth grade teacher in the classroom still, you're going to ensure that the content that you're giving all of your learners is accessible from the start. So no more scanned PDFs or scanned images for our learners who need maybe to use text to speech or screen readers because it's not going to be accessible to them. We're
yeah,
also
yeah,
thinking about our social media being accessible, all of our learning management systems. Like we can have a specific learning management system that we think is highly accessible, but then it becomes inaccessible because the content that we're uploading.
that's huge. That right. I love that you said that, Kelly. Like, that's massive to me. Like, yeah. So I ran my accessibility checker and it came back that the stuff was, but my content isn't accessible.
And there's different levels to it, Bryan, because there's what our systems that procure, right?
Mhm.
The textbooks that we purchase, the digital
Yeah.
textbooks, the video subscriptions. Like we want to make sure that when we procure those things, that we're asking those questions. How are you meeting accessibility requirements, right? How are you? Because the requirements on the school district or the university or the community college, right? So you want to make sure that in your contracts, you're very clear about what the expectations are. But at the same time, if we're implementing universal design for learning, we often have to make adjustments to materials, right? And so there is some knowledge that needs to be built up over time about how to create accessible resources, whether you're adapting a Microsoft Word document and that you're
Mhm.
going to use with learners because you want to customize a little bit more of what you're delivering to them. You want to make sure that you're following just some accessibility best practices.
Oh,
Yeah,
right
and I
on.
love how Brian, you mentioned like you ran the accessibility checker. And we also have to be mindful when you run the accessibility checker, it's essentially only going to be picking up like 30% of the errors. So
Oh,
yeah, so hopefully within, starting yesterday, we're looking about like start with your syllabus, like is it accessible? Like start now because 2026 is just basically tomorrow in the grand scheme of
yeah,
things.
So that's one thing, right? Because
yeah,
ultimately we want people to have accessible information, but with universal design for learning, that's not the end all be all, right, Bryan? We want them to take
right.
that accessible information and then build knowledge out of it, right? And build meaning. And so there's a number of ways that we can do that for learners. We can provide a number of scaffolds, text to speech, translation, the use of imagery, right, to support learning. So
Right.
there's lots of ways we can support that.
Yeah, I always love it because, like, when people ask me about that, that image piece, I'm always like, well, in your head, think about a chair, right? What's the definition of a chair? What's the Webster definition of a chair, right? But then when you think about a chair in your head, what does it look like? It looks very different. Kelly's idea of a chair may not be Louise's, and Louise's is probably not Brian's, right? So there's always that the connotation and the denotation, right? The denotation is what we get from Webster's dictionary, but the connotation of what it means and what I see in my head, that's just as important because that's what allows us to attach it to our own like learning schema, right? Like this is how I would recognize it or how I would draw it out.
Yeah, I like how you put that in there. And I'm also curious what the definition of a chair is in the Webster's dictionary.
Yeah. Well, I didn't look it up because I didn't prepare. So don't try not to put me on the spot too much.
So if we're thinking of the chairs, let's think about that. Let's talk about AI because
Oh,
yeah.
geez.
Have you heard of AI before?
No, what is it?
Artificial intelligence, right? But I think
Ugh.
when you had like the idea of the chair and how we all see it differently, I think AI is the same way.
Yeah.
People have fear. Some people are leaning into it. Some organizations you're not allowed to use it. So let's talk about that.
Well, let's talk about it. I think that the term artificial intelligence is a misnomer. I really do. And I'm going to drop it. And I know I've said it ad nauseum in our meetings, but I'm going to say it again. I don't think we should call it artificial intelligence. I think we should call it assistive intelligence. And when we change that naming, there is a responsibility on the user, just as much as there is a responsibility on the technology, right? And I think that that's closer to what we need in education, right? Whether that's UDL through a UDL lens or through, a direct instruction lens or whatever lens, whatever pedagogical framework or lens we put it through, it needs to be assistive intelligence. It helps me write things, or it helps me create a picture of something in my mind, but I still have to review it as a human. I still have to look at it, and I still have to make sure that it has my voice, my intentions, and I can't just trust it. I think that the biggest thing we can do in education right now is teach about AI literacy, which
Absolutely.
we should have been doing with computer science. Computer science classes do a great job of it, but that should have been something that we adopted overall. Was how are we looking at, technological literacy in general?
Well, I would say, Bryan, digital literacy in general, right? Because that also involves, for instance, how to detect misinformation or disinformation, how to detect deepfakes, right? Which are
Right.
very easy to create now with assistive intelligence, which is, I
Oh,
love you.
nice.
I
I
That
love
love,
sounds
that.
so
see
good. Oh,
what I
gives
did
me
there?
chills, brother. Gives me chills now.
Well, and ultimately, like my perspective is that all technology is assistive.
Mhm.
Like all technology allows you to do something that you otherwise wouldn't be able to do without
Right.
it. So the
Mhm.
late Steve Jobs used the idea of a bicycle for the mind, right? In the sense that, if you get on a bike, you're able to go faster. You're able to get where you want to go much sooner than if you would just walk, right?
Yeah.
So the bike is providing you an assistive feature. It's assisting you in being able to do more. And I know we have legal definitions in the different laws, right? But
Sure.
I'm
Mhm.
just providing sort of a plain language, metaphorical explanation here. So for me with AI, I think of it as, and I think I saw this in an Office of Ed Tech report, right? It's not a robot vacuum. To
Yeah.
me, it's an electric bike,
Yeah.
right? It
Yeah. Well,
has some smarts to it, but you're in control. You're the
right.
person making the decisions about where you go with that bike, as opposed to and I'm not saying that like for some tasks, you don't need the robot, right? The
Yeah.
robot that just goes out and does its thing and then comes back to home base. But that human being in the loop, right? And that digital literacy is I think an important component that we can't leave by the wayside.
Yeah. I keep coming back to this idea of consumers and connoisseurs, right? And right now we're in the phase of consumption where we're just taking everything and anything, and that's how we end up with people, AI generated images with people with six fingers and two arms coming out the left side and whatnot, right? Because we just consume it. But really, if it becomes assistive intelligence and there is this responsibility to actually go over, we become connoisseurs of the technology, right? It's the idea of being able to use the word to and then having the wisdom to decide if that means to go to somewhere, to do something also, to as in also, or the number two. Right? They're all twos, but like how we use them and where we use them is contextual, and it requires us to be connoisseurs of the word and the ideas behind it. And I think that really to see assistive intelligence kind of grow, that's what we need to really focus on is how to become connoisseurs. In order to do that, you have to be educated, I think.
So I'll bring it back to accessibility because that brings up an interesting point, right? There are people looking at how do we use AI. I'm going to use the term that, the common term for it,
Yeah, for sure.
uh, to create alt text for images,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? But that assumes that that's missing that context piece that you just mentioned, Bryan, right? Because
Mhm.
the same image could need different alternative text depending on where I use it, depending on how I'm using it. Is the book for a second grader or is the book for a college student?
Yeah.
Is the image there? Is it supposed to be a very simple alternative text because the image is secondary to something else? Or is the image the main focus? Like in an art book where we may have to provide different type alternative text. So I'm a big believer in I love the term that you use, assistive intelligence, because it's us working together with technology, not technology replacing us, if that makes sense.
Well
Right.
said. Mhm.
So I think what we've all been sort of talking around, but it's important to bring back to the conversation here, is that idea of agency, these tools are there not to replace your agency,
Hmm.
but to, enhance it, give you
Exactly.
more agency, more control. And to me, like agency is like self-determination, is
Mhm.
you are able to make informed decisions that have an impact in your life so that you can live your best life, right? Whether it's choosing the career that you want,
Hmm.
choosing the field of study that you want, that all of these opportunities are open to you. So I know you've done a lot of work, both of you, around agency. So how do you see that? Like, what does agency mean to you?
Yeah.
Kelli, you want to take it? Go for it.
Yeah, sure. To me, it means like we're active participants in our own learning. We're not passive. And I think, right, like it's empowering us to have, when we're designing, like with the UDL guidelines 3.0, it's no longer provide multiple means, it's design multiple means, right?
Mhm.
So we're designing with students in mind. And I think that, enables our students to be empowered because they have say an agency to take control of their own learning, right? I mean, we have so many students who maybe they're in high school now and have been considered non-readers, when in fact, everything's just been read to them this whole time because their content's not been accessible to them. So once we think about universal design for learning, we're designing from the start. We're predicting those barriers. And if we can predict them, we can prevent them, right? So it comes to our instructors. So now our learners who were considered non-readers their whole life, all of a sudden can use something like AI using text to speech, and now they have agency. They can read as fast as they want, slow as they want, and many times as they want.
So I worry when I think about it, does that mean same thing that when we talk about voice and choice, we're like all of a sudden we give students any choice that they want? Like that's the makings for Lord of the Flies. You know what I mean? Like if
Yeah.
I tell a bunch of first graders just do as you feel or learn how you want to learn or choose the best way that works for you and they have no knowledge or no scaffolding towards that,
Hmm.
then, that's how you end up with kids who say 1 + 1 = chair. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's no like
Yeah.
framework to that, right? So I really believe that bounded autonomy goes hand in hand with this idea of access in general. Like I think that
Hmm.
there's access and there's accessibility, and I think that they work with each other and they're nested within each other, but they also do sometimes mean different things, right? Because that idea of AI is not just for students that need something that's text to speech, right?
Right.
That's also for students that don't have a cultural reference, or that's for students that are in some way like they might be in executive dysfunction, or they might
Hmm.
be in behavioral
Yeah.
dysfunction. They still have access to a curriculum and to learning, which, let's be honest, they've always had access to their learning, right? We all, as just human creatures, will engage in learning, whether or not it's appropriate to the situation or maladaptive to the situation is a different determination. But we all have that, and to me, what agency really means, the metaphor that comes to my mind is that I've been asked to sit at the table and eat, right? But without agency, that means that you're telling me what to eat. With
Hmm.
agency, I get to choose what I'm eating, right? And I didn't come here to just have somebody tell me what to eat. I came here to choose what I want to eat and what fills me.
Yeah, and I want to refer, like when we think about the UDL guidelines, we often focus on the principles, right, from left to right. But it's
Sure.
important to also consider the layers, right? And the
Right.
layers are,
Hmm.
to me, I've always thought there's a transfer of responsibility for learner.
Absolutely.
So the upper layer, right, the access layer, that's about the design of just the design. Does the design support people in, having access to the learning, feeling safe, feeling welcome, and so on? But the other layers are around, now that we've provided you with accessible information or access to information and learning, now you're doing something with it. And then ultimately, the last layer, right? It's about the executive functions and you having some control over learning and taking ownership of it, as Kelli mentioned earlier. So I want to go back to that idea of bounded autonomy, Bryan, because one of the
Mhm.
ways that I practice that in a course that I design, I agree with you. If we say like pick, whatever, there's certain paralysis.
Yeah, there's a paradox of choice, right?
Yeah. So here's how I've handled that in a course that I thought, and it was really successful. So I want to share this strategy and welcome your thoughts on it. What I would do is I would give people three choices, and then I would say, here's a wild card.
Hmm.
And the wild card is here are the goals that we're trying to meet. and you suggest to me an assignment that will meet those goals, that will meet that criteria. So I'm giving you a few choices, right? I'm limiting
Yeah.
it to three just because the number three is something that's easy to remember. This is brought to you by the number three. But at the same time, I'm giving you some freedom, right? With the wild card that, and by the way, some of the best projects that I ever got, you think were the three choices?
Yeah.
No, it was the
No.
wild card because it was the one that was the most personal,
Right.
the
Yeah.
most connected to people's experience. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I love a choice matrix because there's so much control on both sides in a choice matrix, right? So if I have a student, like I'm working with a student and like writing's not their gig, man. It's not the thing that they do. They don't dig it. They don't love it. They, whatever. I am one of those people. But I need to learn how to write as well, right? I need to learn how to write in a certain form. Well, as I go through, the teacher can tell me, I want you to like, here are three choices within the writing portion, right? You need to make one of those choices, right? And then the next time we're going to scaffold up, and I'm going to change the choices. You can also still choose to represent it in presentation or song and dance or free form, beat poetry if you want, whatever it is, right? But this portion is something that's part of the bounded autonomy, right? Like, yes, you get to choose how you want to write, like which one of these options you want to write, but guess what? You still have to write,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like bounded autonomy doesn't get rid of rigor and it doesn't get rid of requirements. And I think that's important because I don't have full autonomy in my job. I mean, they let me do some crazy stuff here, which is dope and I love it, but there are still some expectations and that's just realistic,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
right?
I agree.
That's just
Yep.
how we should act as just in general. That's the rules that we should have for our communities and our work life and our home life and how we deal with relationships. Everything is that there are still requirements and there's still things I have to put in.
Yeah, I love that. You said expectations. We should have high expectations for our learners, right? High
Yeah.
expectations. Yeah.
No
Um,
matter what. I mean,
no
no
matter
matter where they
what.
come from or how they access, right?
That's right. So, in thinking of that, we're talking about AI, we're talking about universal design for learning, accessibility. Rumor has it there's an event coming up in July. Do you know anything about that?
We might know a little bit about that, right? UDL
What's
Con.
what's going on? When is this? What is this?
At the end of July. I think there's information on our website. But no, in all seriousness, I think we learn from each other, right? I mean, that
Mhm.
idea of collective intelligence, right? Like we learn in dialogue, not monologue.
Yes.
Love it.
So our goal with the UDL Con is to bring together people that are passionate about learning, that are passionate about empowerment of students and preparing them for the future. Because for me, I'm part of our workforce development team at CAS, our post-secondary and workforce development team. And for me, these are life skills,
Yeah.
right? If we give you agency, you become a more adaptable person, a person that can adjust to changes, whether they're changes in technologies we haven't even thought of yet,
Mm-hmm.
beyond AI, or it's changes in the world, right? And how we do things. So we want to make sure that we bring together some of the best minds to think about, what's happening in the world of UDL. Well, how can we do things better? Because we're always trying to improve. And also just have fun. Like this can be fun. It should be fun. When learning is designed according to UDL, to me, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So what else, Brian? What can people expect there?
Look, so I'm gonna do the full plug because we got to keep the lights on. We got to pay some bills, right?
Hype it.
So
Right.
UDL Con, it's the second one that we're doing, the International UDL Con. It is July 22nd to the 23rd, and it is in Washington, D.C., and it's at the Capitol Hilton. We are still and so early bird registration is going strong, folks. Like get in there, get the price, get the discount, make sure you lock in your time, bring your friends, your family, your crew, bring anybody and everybody, right? Because the UDL Con is not just a conference, but it is this idea that it is all encompassing and it is an experience. And if you think you've got something to say, which I'm willing to bet, if you're listening to this podcast and you love UDL like we love UDL, you got something to say. We are still have our CFP, our call for proposals is still open, and it is open until Friday, February 28th. So if you got something to say, we got a whole bunch of different formats, everything from pre workshops and 3 hour events to all the way to my favorite, which I'm super stoked about, the Pichu Kusha, which is not a Pokemon. It is an actual format presentation type. It is 20 slides, 20 seconds of slides, 6 minutes and 40 seconds. And I will tell you, I put in for one and I'm hyped to do it. I think it's going to be dope. So I think that it's a good time. It is just a brain blast and a lot of fun. And then, if you like it, you can bring it to your dinner party and have everybody do a Pichu Kusha at your dinner. Don't do that. That sounds actually really boring.
For me, the con in UDL con is conversation. It's around
for sure.
Convening, conversation, and continuing, right? Because it doesn't end at the UDL con. As you meet people that, again, how often are we like the lone wolf where we work? Like we're the person who's like advocating for things, and how energizing is it to come into an environment where everybody is kind of on the same page in terms like, there may be some details that you may disagree on, but you're on the same page in terms of being passionate about learning and passionate about learners, right? So it's very learner-centric. Right. And we try to model universal design for learning in the design of the sessions, the design of the conference. So it's a great place to really experience UDL. If you're new to it, it's a great place to get connected to the community. So definitely come and join us, and you'll get to meet Bryan for the first time. He has a strong hat game, a strong jacket game.
I try.
You'll see like a different hat every day, different jacket every day.
Yeah, I bring my haberdashery to it, no doubt. I think like UDL Con is UDL summer camp. That's what it is. It's like coming back to your summer camp, and like the first time you're kind of nervous and you don't want to go swimming, and that's cool. And there's some arts and crafts and food. And then like by the third time you're like, hey, so-and-so, I haven't seen you forever. And like you're catching up. That is the vibe. And if that's a kind of vibe you want to get into, which I think we really need right now, like we all need to come together, tell our stories, remember that we're human beings, and that UDL is ultimately human-centered design, not just student-centered design. It's human-centered design, and puts those stories and that humanity back into what we do. That's what UDL aims to do.
100%. It's an experience beyond the conference. And so we're definitely better together. So we hope that we see many of you there so we can all meet in person. It's going to be awesome. So just want to take the time to thank you, gentlemen.
All right, everybody. Well, you heard Bryan, you heard Kelli, you heard me. If what you heard today really piques your interest, right, and you're interested in learning more and continuing these conversations with us, there's a lot more where this came from. I mean, we're not going to stop at a half hour. So this is just the first episode of season 4. So lots more to come. And we look forward to engaging in these conversations, but also you're part of the conversation. So if you have a topic related to universal design for learning, accessibility, design, the three of us, we can put our heads together and come up with some great ideas. So please reach out, connect with us. You can find the information on our website. And we look forward to continuing these conversations.
Peace, love, and belly rubs.
Thanks, guys. This has been fun. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Learning Experience powered by CAST. You can find us on the web at cast.org. That's CAST.org. There, you'll find the show notes with links to all of the resources mentioned on each episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing and leaving a review, and share it with your colleagues so that together we can build more inclusive learning experiences for everyone. Thanks again for listening.